Hello, this is Washington Unplugged. I'm Cheryl Atkinson. President Obama is still said to be deciding whether to authorize sending an additional 40,000 troops to Afghanistan. With the backdrop of an increase in violence in Pakistan and Afghanistan, we take a look at the road ahead now with Imran Ahmad. He's president of the Transnational Crisis Project. In a nutshell, I know this is difficult. What is the Transnational Crisis Project?
The Crisis Project strives to produce policy recommendations to leaders around the world in order to address transnational security issues, be that terrorism or the national security implications of climate change or infectious disease.
Now, I know you want to talk about Pakistan, and we will in just a minute, but first, can you remind us in simple terms for people who haven't been following this as closely as you have, what is the terror connection in Afghanistan?
I think, first of all, Afghanistan is suffering an insurgency that never needed to happen. The oxygen of that insurgency is being provided at the moment from Pakistan, from militant bases, Al-Qaeda and Taliban bases in Pakistan, which then allow people to move across into Afghanistan to frustrate America and her allies' interests to promote stability and eventually prosperity for the whole region.
What is the tie between Pakistan and Afghanistan that allows them to move with some freedom between the two?
Along the border areas known as the Durand Line, there is the world's largest tribal population, known as Pathans or Pashtuns. They inhabit both sides, so there is strong familial ties and cultural ties between both sides of what is, in fact, a British creation, almost an imaginary line that divides two people who are, in fact, one.
Do you think the roots of what's going on in Afghanistan, therefore, really come from Pakistan?
The roots of what's going on in Afghanistan right now are very complex. They stem from many, many causes and reasons. The solution, however, is found in Pakistan. Pakistan is unlike Afghanistan or Iraq before it. Let me put it into stark terms. Iraq had a population of 20-odd million. Afghanistan has 30-odd million. Both weak states, poor armies, poor infrastructure. Pakistan, on the other hand, has a population in excess of 170 million, an army larger than that of the United States, an arsenal of nuclear weapons, and the home of the most noxious, virulent, perverted form of Salafist Wahhabi Deobandi Islam. It's also a truly transnational issue, which affects the security of Americans and America's interests and allies around the world because of their vast diaspora community. We have seen this experience in the United Kingdom, for instance. Elements of the diaspora community from Pakistan have proven to be prone to radicalization. You saw this in London, Leeds, Dewsbury, and Glasgow. That's why it's absolutely necessary for our future security to sort out the issues and to bring prosperity and stability to Pakistan. It's of an entirely different magnitude.
All right, before we talk about maybe some specifics as to what we could do there, what do you think about the idea for adding 40,000 more troops to Afghanistan? Is that part of the equation of what, in your view, has to be done?
I believe that the stability needs to be brought to Afghanistan. We need to look at all options of how we can best ensure stability is brought. People ask in this country often, it's not our war, why are we there? I say very categorically, it is in the interests of the American people and her allies to succeed in Afghanistan. At the moment, the reason that we are frankly losing is because of the policies that were followed previously. President Obama and his stellar A-list cast of principals, Vice President Biden, Secretary Clinton, and indeed Ambassador Holbrooke, I am sure are grappling with a very complex situation and will bring out in time a set of policies that will be able to deal with what is a very serious problem.
One quick question, one longer one. We only have a little bit of time left. But what makes you say we're failing? Because things have gotten, some people say, worse. We haven't made fast, measurable improvements.
The center of gravity with all effective counterinsurgency campaigns is the population. We have yet to effectively embrace the populations in Pakistan or in Afghanistan. The Taliban have not just produced a terrorist force, but an alternative system of governance, courts, markets, justice. That is something we have to prove and show there is a viable alternative to.
Okay, and last question. You get to be chief strategist for the United States for the purposes of this program. What are a couple of concrete steps that you think should be taken, something that's not being done right now that would help?
First of all, the Westphalian system, the old system of states dealing with states, is much less relevant today than 60 years ago. Such issues such as transnational terrorism will not be solved solely by Washington, Islamabad, Kabul. You need to engage the populations. Also, one has to be agile. Within Pakistan, we have a difficult situation in that there are elements of state infrastructure, such as the ISI and elements of the military, that are actually trying to frustrate America and her allies' policies, only elements. We need to actually embrace them and let them realize that their success, their country's security, is wedded to our own. And their security means that they must actually come on side.
And how do you do that? I mean, we have a campaign to win the hearts and minds. I don't know if that's, if that's part of it.
We have an idea that we need to win the hearts and minds. Effectively doing it is much more difficult. To do that, you need to know on a granular basis, village to village, what levers to press, how to actually embrace the populations. For example, a Pakhtun in Khyber, at the gateway of the Khyber Pass, will actually call a Pakhtun 50 miles down the road in Kurram a foreigner. Now, the Taliban are fabulously brilliant at actually identifying local problems and exploiting them and providing narratives to the people on the ground. For instance, when I was in Di Khan speaking to Khalifa Abdul Qayyum, who's the head of a terrorist group there, he was going on and on about healthcare provision. When I am in Swat and one speaks to members of the Taliban there, they talk about access to justice. They're not talking about religious ideologies. They're talking about needs to the people. We need to understand those narratives and combat them and provide real alternatives to the population.
Thanks so much. Very interesting, and you explained it really well. Imran Ahmad Khan, president of the Transnational Crisis Project.
Thank you.